Welcome to Unapologetically Sensitive, where you can learn, relate, laugh, and maybe even live a bolder, brighter life. I'm your host, Patricia Young. This is a weekly podcast where we explore the strengths we have because of our sensitivity and some of the challenges it poses as well. The information in this podcast is not a substitute for help from a licensed mental health professional. Hey there. To the creatives, healers, sensitives, and deep thinkers. I'm not sure if that's in the right order or not. I thought I knew what it was. If it's wrong, I apologize. Happy New Year. How are you doing? Did you get through December and the holidays? It's been a rough year, everybody. It really has been. Today, I want to talk about why the holidays and all the transitions and the expectations and disappointments and gift giving and attunement can be challenging for us. And I think that we know that the holidays can be hard, but I was just talking with someone who said, I don't know why the holidays are so hard. And as we talked about it, they were like, oh, and I thought maybe this would be helpful for other people to hear. I also want to end with, I don't do New Year's resolutions, but I just jotted down some quick areas. I'm sure there are other areas that I did not include, but things that we can look at. And are there things that we want to create more or less of? Not necessarily resolutions, but I find that this is a nice time of the year to sort of assess and reevaluate where I'm at and what do I want to do in this following year just to try and improve things. So that's what we're going to talk about. I want to give you a follow-up on my purple hair. I continue to love it. It's amazing. I am curious to see how it will fade and grow out, but so far I think it's holding pretty well. The tattoo. I think after I recorded the last episode, I was able to take the plastic adhesive off of the tattoo, and I thought, I don't hate it. And I'm actually coming to like it. Because it's still a little cooler where I live, I have long sleeves on a lot, and I don't see it as much. It's definitely bigger, but this was about making bold moves, and this is a big, bold move. So I'm not hating it, and I'm starting to enjoy it. So those are the updates on the hair and the tattoo. With the holidays, I think there are so many things that go on if you're neurodivergent, especially if you're ADHD, autistic, AuDHD. There is so much that goes on that makes it hard, and I think we often don't understand why it's so hard. I think it's incredibly overstimulating. I think the expectations, the disappointments. I have a real thing around gift giving that I love buying gifts, but if I have to do it on demand, i.e. there's a holiday, and I've used the word Christmas, but for holidays, I know many of you do not celebrate Christmas. You celebrate Hanukkah, Kwanzaa. There are, I think, 22 different holidays that are celebrated in December, and I tend to not be as inclusive as I would like to be, so forgive me for that. So I think I'm going to try and just use the word holidays. But if I know that I have to buy a gift because it's expected of me, that really activates my PDA, which can really make gift giving much harder. I genuinely prefer that if I see something that I know somebody will like, to be able to just get it for them and give it to them. That is really what works better for me. I don't always do that. And it's interesting that today when I'm recording is December 31st, and one of my nieces does not have Venmo or any cash apps, and the best gift for her is cash. I haven't sent her a gift because I couldn't find the holiday cards, and the cash is sitting on my dresser, and I'm very late. Executive functioning things can be really challenging for me, and I often need to ask my husband for help. And today I'm going to say I need some help so I can find something to send the money in and just get it in the mail, because the money's been sitting on my dresser since before Christmas, and I just haven't sent it. So those kinds of things can really eat at us. And I know the other day I had some minor tasks to do, and this is a little bit of diversion, but I think it also fits in that need for somebody else to help us regulate our nervous system, body doubling. We signed up for a new phone and internet provider, and what they told us we were going to get and what we got are incredibly different. I've probably spent 3.5 hours on the phone, and the other night I spent a 2-hour block of time trying to get things squared away. My husband was very kind and generous and sat with me, and one of my sons was here, and he was with me also. And it really helped to keep me grounded and to not give in. But I also felt very clear that I had called, I don't know, the day or two before Christmas, and our bill was going to be due. And they were telling me that they were going to charge us and they couldn't backdate anything. And I was really clear that I called you on December 1st. This is who I spoke with. This is the time. This is the ticket number. And I tried to get it taken care of then, and it wasn't taken care of. So for you to tell me that you can't backdate something is just not okay. And I think having other people there helped me to be more assertive. And I know many of us don't like conflict. We don't like having to be direct. And when they looked up this ticket number, they said that the second person said there was nothing there. The first person I spoke with said that there was no follow-up. And I said, but that's not my problem. I called, and because the person didn't do their job, that's not my problem. I'm sharing this with you because if this had come up years ago, I wouldn't have been able to deal with it. I wouldn't have been able to be assertive. And I was very clear that you promised me something and what you're delivering is not the same. And I'm just not okay with that. So that's a little bit of a side quest. Anyways, going back to the holidays and some of the things that can be really difficult is our nervous systems really do the best with sameness, repetition, not a lot of change, knowing what's expected, things being predictable. And even things like if you have to move things around in your home to bring in a menorah or a Christmas tree or whatever it is that you bring in, even that change can make a difference. If you set up decorations and you have to move things around, that's a change in our environment. And I saw something the other day that said something to the effect of, for neurodivergent people, we are always scanning for change in the environment, which is why when somebody moves our stuff or we can't find something, it can be unsettling because our nervous system is always scanning. And when things are the same, our nervous system can rest a little bit. And when things are different or moved around, we relax a little bit. And it's funny because we took down the majority of our decorations. We took our tree down, but I got some new Grinch stuff this year, and I love the Grinch. Grinch just makes my PDA very happy. And I asked my husband to leave the Grinch stuff out. And he did, but he put it in a different place because he returned the normal things that we have. And I found myself feeling like my expectation was that I would see the Grinch stuff where it had been, and the fact that it was moved created a little bit of a rumble for me. And when I was talking with this friend today, she was saying, like, I always felt like there was something wrong with me or something weird. So I'm sure that if she had that same reaction, she would have berated herself instead of knowing that, like, I had an expectation that it would be in one place. I'm also very, very, very visual. I remember things based on where they are. And when I worked home health, often I would get a client years later and I would know from their address and where they lived. I would remember, what the house looked like and where it was, that's how I remember things. So things being visual, being in the same place, I find things that are very bright in a positive way, very visually stimulating. That's just how I'm wired. So it's been an adjustment. And even though the decorations are out, they're not in the same place. And it's been a little bit unsettling to me. But those little changes are changes in our nervous system. And I've just learned that it just may not be that way for other people. And I was talking to a friend yesterday, and they were asking, how was it having the kids here? And I said, it's totally fine that, we had all 4 kids, our 2 twins and the wife and the girlfriend here for Christmas Eve and Christmas morning. And then the girls, women, went back to their families and the boys went with them. And the cat also went. So then we had none. And then one of my sons came back for a couple of days. And then, so we had people coming and going in the house. And I love having people here. It's an adjustment when they're not here. And even little things like, if the kids aren't here, then I sleep with my door open. I don't sleep with pajamas on. If the kids are here, I have to make sure the dogs are in my room when I go to bed because the living room is near my bedroom. And then when they go to bed, then they open my door. I sleep with pajamas on. Even little things like that are just changes. Or if the cat's here or not here, that do we put up the cat toys? Do we leave the cat toys down? Missing the cat. Last night I could have sworn I heard the cat's bell on the collar. So I don't know what that was. Maybe I was sleeping. Those are all adjustments, and it's not that they're good or they're bad, but those are changes that we notice as people that are neurodivergent. And it's not that it's a bad thing, but it registers more. And when I was talking to this friend, I think they really try and understand and appreciate how those little changes are different. But I think that they were kind of surprised to hear that those little changes can be challenging. If we go back to gift giving, I think there's also a lot about attunement, that many of us really try and attune to other people in gift giving and wanting to buy gifts that are meaningful and significant for other people. And when people are attuned to our needs and listen to little things that we want, that also makes us feel very loved. A couple of years ago, I received some fuzzy socks for Christmas that I loved. They're little fuzzy ankle socks that at night, if I go to bed with them, it's easy to kick off. I wear them around the house if it's cold. I just love them. And because I worn them so much, I have gotten holes in them. And so I had mentioned to my son, did he know where those socks came from? And that was kind of the end of it. And then for Christmas, I received something even better than before, a whole pack of really beautiful fuzzy socks. And that just felt like beautiful attunement to me, that he had listened to something that I was interested in. I didn't ask for it as a gift. I just asked if he knew where they had come from. And then his girlfriend gave me these beautiful socks. And I love the Grinch, as you all know, and I received a beautiful Grinch blanket from the girlfriend, which I love. And it's kind of funny that my husband and I had gone out shopping, and they have some, I can't remember what you call them. They're Grinch figurines that there's a certain name for them, and I can't remember. And we had bought them together. And then I said to Steve, because we don't normally exchange gifts. If we do, it's very minimal. We buy what we want for ourselves, and we're okay with this. But I said, if you want to keep them, you can wrap them up and give them to me for Christmas. And I had also seen some things on Etsy. There was some Grinch tea towels and a little Kleenex box cover that matches my Christmas bedding. So I had sent him the links and totally forgot about it, which is one of the gifts of getting older. So when I opened these things, I was incredibly surprised and delighted because I had forgotten. And then the nice thing is, because they've only been out for a little time and we pack them away, then next year when I open up, or, take out our Christmas stuff, that there'll be things that I forgot that were new, were exciting. But when we either buy things for ourselves or people know the things that we love, it can feel really, I think we feel very seen. And for me as an AuDHD person, not being seen and heard and attuned to is a lot of the trauma that I've experienced, where people say you're being too sensitive, you're being too judgmental, you're overthinking, you should just let this go. Getting all these messages about how we show up in the world is not okay. And then when people really listen to who we are and what we like, it can really feel very, very special. Along with that comes the pressure, because we may also apply that pressure to the people that we buy gifts for, and wanting them to feel loved and seen, or feel frustrated and feel like it's just an obligation that we have to buy things and we don't know what to buy people. And so wanting people to feel seen and heard and appreciated, but having to buy things. I mean, I think this goes lots of ways, and it really can create an awful lot of stress. I think our values for fairness and justice and equality can come up when giving gifts, when receiving gifts, making sure that everybody feels seen and loved and appreciated, provided you're in a positive environment. If you live in a toxic environment where things are very inequitable, or there's favoritism, or you're not seen or given gifts or shown love this way, then this episode is probably frustrating for you. And I apologize that this is not sensitive and addressing those needs. But I also think that, and I had told my husband this, and he was kind of surprised, that I really don't like opening gifts in front of other people. And one year for my birthday, I told people, when people sing happy birthday, I don't like it. It just makes me uncomfortable. I don't like it. So the last time I had people around me at my birthday, I said, please, let's not sing it. I would rather open gifts in private. There is so much pressure that I feel to look surprised, to look like I'm appreciative, to look like that my face aligns with, showing that I'm grateful, to say the right thing. And what if it's something that I don't like? What if it's something that I just can't figure out? And there's so much pressure in that it really creates a lot of strain, even if I'm not aware of it, and even if it doesn't feel like it's a big thing. Even if we're having to make little micro changes, because masking is all about making other people feel comfortable, right? It's the whole point of masking, is to make other people feel comfortable. And that can just be a lot of work. And also, when I spend time and give people gifts, I want to see the appreciation. And then what if they also are neurodivergent, whether they know it or not, and then they don't show it? Then does that bring up feelings? How do we do all this without having expectations and disappointments? And is that even realistic? I don't know. What do you think? What's really interesting, years ago, the first Christmas that before Steve and I were married, we went up to his family's house for Christmas, and his mom gave me this beautiful snow globe. However, at the time, I did not see the value in it and did not appreciate it. I have a lot of regret about this, and this kind of resurfaced this year, so I'm rumbling with this. If I could go back in time, I would have said, "Thank you. This is beautiful. I love it," and left it at that. While we were there, my husband and his father went golfing a couple times. And if you know, a round of golf takes 4 hours, which gave me a lot of time with his mom. His parents never were really crazy about me to start out with, and I'm sure this did not start with a great impression. The way my mind works is I didn't value the gift. She said it would be okay to exchange it. So we went to like a million places. We were in Alaska. No, we were in Washington until I found something that I wanted. And I really regret doing that. And apparently it's very much how I'm wired. So going to current times, and we're going on a little side quest here. When my son and daughter-in-law moved in, at my daughter-in-law's house, they all use bidets. And I've used a bidet once or twice and really was not that impressed with it. And at the time, the kids were staying in the front part of the house, but we knew that when they moved in permanently, they would be staying in the back part of the house. And we have a bathroom in the front part of the house, and we have a bathroom in the back part of the house. I suggested that we put the bidet in the back part of the house, since that would be the bathroom they would be using when she eventually moved in. And they did that. And sometime before Christmas, usually my son does not have money at Christmas, so gifts are not a big thing, which is fine. This year, he and his wife had some money, so they told me, how much they spent on me. They got this package in the mail. It didn't say what it was. And I said, "Oh, what's that?" And my son said, "It's your gift." I said, "What is it?" And so he handed it to me and let me shake it and move it around. And I love solving problems. My brain loves having problems to solve. So I kept wondering what it was. And at this point, I was really not that crazy about the bidet. We kind of moved forward a little bit, and the kids are gone. My son and his wife are staying with her parents for a week or something. And for some reason, I think I had talked to her about the bidet and talked about some of the things like you got to wiggle sometimes on it to have it be efficient. And we talked a little bit more about how it works, because I just didn't quite get it. And so I wanted to try it again. And then I really liked it. I really liked it. And then I was thinking, that package is about the size of a bidet, but I hadn't talked about liking it. So I had asked my husband, did they get me a bidet? And he said no. And we kind of move on, and I'm still thinking. I asked if they could give me hints about it. We talked about on Christmas morning, we could play 20 questions. Then a few days before Christmas, my husband and I went out to eat, and we were talking about this, and I asked him, is it a bidet? And my interpretation is, I'm sure he would tell you a very different story, but my interpretation is he got kind of agitated, and he said, "It really puts me on the spot when you ask me this." And we had a little bit of a discussion about it. It felt like there was a lot of tension. And I said, "I know you're not saying this, but this is what goes on for me. I've always been very curious, and I love solving problems. So for me, it's fun to think of what the things could be. And I'm not trying to put you on the spot. And you could always say, do you really want to know the answer? Or do you just, want me to go along with it? To me, it's just not a big deal. But what I felt was I was doing something wrong because he got irritated, and that I just shouldn't have asked him anything. So this caused a little bit of a kerfuffle between us. We just let it go. And then I thought his implication was maybe they did get me a bidet, but they told me what they spent and it didn't match up to the price of a bidet. And I thought, well, maybe they got me a fancier version. And I just decided I really wanted a bidet. They were out of town. They'd be back in town for a day or two, and I'd need my son to put it in. I just thought, the heck with it. I'm just going to order a bidet. And if they got me the same thing, then they should feel really proud because they did a spot on job of picking a gift for me. And I think I had mentioned that I had bought it for them. I really wanted to call and sort of have a direct conversation. But again, this whole, like, what is the rule? What is the rule around gifts and surprises? And do you ruin a gift? And I'm very pragmatic and I just see things differently. But this is the autism. Like, what is the rule? And I don't want to mess things up for people. So I ordered the bidet. It came in. My son put it in for me. I'm trying to think if he put it on. I think he put it in for me on Christmas Eve. So I figured it wasn't a bidet. I may have asked my husband again. I don't know. But it was just very, very confusing. And then on Christmas Day, I opened the gift from my son and daughter-in-law, and it just was something that was not even in my consciousness. And I totally went back to this thing that happened with my mother-in-law that first Christmas with the snow globe, that it's not something I ever thought about. I just didn't have an idea of how I would use it. I mean, I know how to use it, but just kind of imagining like, where would it fit into my life? And I just didn't have that awareness. And I'm going to be very vague here, but there's something that I'm considering. And so I've been doing a lot of research on people that are familiar with what I'm considering and getting all the ins and outs. Like, this is how I get familiar with things. I like to gather lots of information and data and see what the pros are, see what the cons are, see what is that going to work for me. That having lots of information makes me feel settled. And I've never seen anybody who's had this type of thing before. I don't know anybody that has it. I understand how it could be used. And I sat with it for a couple of days, and part of me went back to that thing of like, I know how much money they spent on this. And then I start thinking about what my values are around value and gifts. And, this is something that I wasn't even considering. And because I haven't thought about having it and using it. And I just kept thinking of like, do not make the same mistake that you made before. You had a very painful lesson. You regret it. Let's do it differently. And after a couple of days, and I looked at the package a little bit more and saw some of the things that it could do, I could see the benefit of it. And I have to say that it's still sitting in the same place where I opened it up on Christmas. The kids have been here and gone. But I think that this is very relatable. And I was watching so many videos of kids opening gifts and parents joking with them, thinking that the kid got something or they didn't, or disappointing them. And I was thinking about how much pressure, maybe not for all kids, but for the kid to have to look like they're excited and appreciative when it's not what they wanted, and then maybe they get what they wanted. Like all the ways that parents, quote, play with their kids around gifts, and the talks that parents had with their kids about what can you say if you don't like something. Thank you. I like shirts. Or, thank you for thinking of me. This is a very thoughtful gift. All of those things that we have to learn. And then seeing, I'm sure everybody, if you're on social media, has seen the video where the family went, and I think it was the nephew that got all of these gifts, and the child is crying to their mom, and the child is crying saying, I'm trying to be grateful. But it was very unfair. And I think many of us feel these things, that we get things that we don't like. We feel like other people get more things than we do. We're supposed to be grateful. We're supposed to be appreciative. We feel disappointed. There's just so much that's loaded. And then if you're neurodivergent and you already struggle with being honest, or here's the other thing, if somebody asks, do you like that? Like, which game are we playing? Are we playing the game where I'm supposed to tell you, yes, I love it? Or do you really want to know honestly what I think? And I know that I got something from my husband, and I've asked a couple of times, like, what do you think? And if you don't like it, it's not going to hurt my feelings. We can't return it, but we can get rid of it. And so there's that whole thing of, am I supposed to be honest? Am I supposed to pretend like I'm appreciative? All of these things are very, very stressful. And even if they're small, they're little changes on our nervous system. And then there's the whole idea about reciprocity, that what if we spent a lot of money or time on something and somebody didn't give us a gift or didn't reciprocate? Again, with our values of fairness and justice and equity, equality, justice sensitivity, where does that come into play? or the fear of disappointing people. If we didn't get people gifts, or people give us a little card and a little gift and we didn't give something to them. I mean, all of these things I think are very normal. And if you're neurodivergent, autistic, ADHD, ADHD, we can't not think about that, and we can't not consider it. And I think those things make it even harder and more stressful. Normally, we leave everything up until after the first of the year. Generally, the day after Christmas, my husband's ready to take everything down, but I ask him to keep it up. And we have been taking things down slower, but I'm also finding that I'm enjoying having things back to the way that they are. We have to move things around in our living room in order to make room for the tree, and it just makes the living room very awkward. And I'm enjoying having kind of that sameness this year. One thing that is really different is normally when we do presents, this is probably my OCD, that we usually have a trash bag, and when my son hands out gifts, and so one person opens a gift and we watch, and then the trash bag, you put your wrapping paper into the trash bag and the next person does. When the kids were really little, they lost part of a toy because it got lost in the wrapping paper, and I think that's what generated this, just cleaning up after yourself. This year, there were a lot of gifts. We had way more people than we normally do on Christmas morning. We had the kitten, we had the 2 dogs. Maisie, one of the things that I do with her for enrichment is she loves to shred things. And anytime I get a package, she's the most curious dog in the world. And often the paper packing that comes in, I give it to her and she will take it to the living room and she shreds it. She puts one paw on top of the paper and then shreds things. And sometimes we co-shred, that if it's something that's hard for her to shred, I'll start a piece and I'll hold it and she shreds, and then I start another piece and she shreds. So she loves shredding. So she's shredding gifts on the floor. The kitten is loving the pieces that are getting shredded. We had an entire living room that was just sky high with paper and boxes, and the kitten was playing in and out of the boxes and batting at the dog's tails. And normally that disarray is unsettling to me, but I really enjoyed the freedom of it and just allowing everything to be where it was, and, seeing Maisie happy shredding things and the kitten having this entire playground of things to play with. And there's not a right or wrong. We all need to do what we want and need to do, and our need for order. I know for my husband, he likes things being in order very, very much. And I'm seeing something similar with my son, of things needing to be in order, or it's just kind of undoing for him. And all of these things are valid. They upset our nervous system. And again, it takes us out of that kind of homeostasis of having things be the same and being predictable, all of those things. So does any of this resonate for you? I do have something to say about the Grinch, and then I just want to talk briefly about categories of things that you may want to reflect on for the new year, maybe not. I don't believe in New Year's resolutions. I do try and look at the last year and reflect on it and think about what kinds of changes I want to make for the new year. But I have a client, when you work with me, I have a little Grinch for the holidays that I took out that you could see. And I have Grinch earrings and a Grinch mug and all kinds of Grinch stuff. And a client had asked about it. And this client was not born in the United States and had asked me about the Grinch. And I think the Grinch, my PDA loves the Grinch. And one of the statues that I got is the Grinch with his fingers in his ears. And if there was one with his arms crossed across his chest, you can't make me, you're not the boss of me. That's what that means to me. My PDA just loves that. And I think being a well-socialized woman, which is also why I love Elf, I'm all over the place, totally being himself, spontaneous. And I saw something on Instagram about why Elf is neurodivergent and, his difficulty understanding social situations and saying what he thinks and feels and trying to figure out what's expected of him. It was very affirming. And I think there was another one about the Grinch, and this client that I have watched the Grinch and had texted me to said, I'm watching the Grinch right now. And the client came back and said that he could see the neurodivergence in the Grinch and being treated differently and how that impacted him. And, I think that there's so many stories that show this, the struggles that we have as neurodivergent people, and we resonate with these things, whether we know we're neurodivergent, whether we know the characters are neurodivergent. So that's my spiel about the Grinch, which I still continue to love and appreciate. So the final thing is some categories that you might look at for the new year. And I'm sure there are way more than what I've thought about, but where are you at with these things? And I do year-end writing where I think last year I was probably not in a very good place. And so I just kind of did free form writing. And so when I looked up last year's writing, I reread everything and then wrote about this year. But I think if I would have gone back a previous year, I think I have the categories. So I may go back and look at that. I don't know. But the categories that you may want to look at is health. Where are you at with your health? And are there any changes that you want to do? I'm becoming very aware that with my food, and this is a very autistic thing of looking at it in kind of a binary way, of either I'm very intentional and mindful about food and what I'm eating, or at the other extreme is I just don't care and I just want to do whatever's easy, simple, going along with the plan. And I know that those extremes don't serve me. And what is it that works for me to be somewhere in the middle where I can be intentional? And there are times when it's easier for me to think about meals and eating more balanced. And there are times when just feeding myself is very challenging. And so how can I have a plan for those times? And those are the times when I eat more frozen meals, more frozen foods. Sometimes I have to ask people to prepare food for me. How do we work with that? Finances, where are we at financially? Do we want to make some changes? Where do we want to be in the following year? Relationships, evaluating relationships. Are there things that we need to change? I'm really seeing how much of my rejection sensitivity dysphoria is really high and how that has ruined a number of relationships. That if I don't hear from people, I think between that and my object permanence, if somebody's out of sight, then I sort of forget that they exist. And I'm so painfully anticipating being rejected that if there's anything that feels like rejection, I'm just gone. And it really prevents me often from reaching out and I think nurturing relationships. This is not true with every single relationship, but I really think that my rejection sensitivity dysphoria has made it challenging for me to show up and stay through conflict when I'm struggling. This is not across the board, but just my thought. Are your relationships reciprocal? Are you seen and heard? Are you able to do the things that you want to do? Is it always what the other person wants to do? How available are people? And along with this, I've gone through periods of my life, and if you've listened to the whole podcast, where I've talked about say your piece, find out if the relationship can tolerate conflict, be open and honest. And I'm moving more into this area right now of just allowing more room for relationships to be what they are and needing to change my expectations in certain relationships. And sometimes people really show up for us and then they kind of dip into a space that for whatever reason, they're not able to show up the same way. And can we be okay with that? And knowing that maybe it will come back to where it was before, and knowing that that just may be the pattern in the relationship. I know sometimes I can show up very strongly and then other times I can't. So in this season of my life, I'm more in a, can we just let it be and trust that things will come back? I feel like I've ruined so many relationships with having unrealistic and high expectations and feeling like me speaking my truth was the right thing to do. And I probably just had very unrealistic expectations. Self-care. And that can be things like rest, moving your body, personal care, taking time for yourself, getting massages, taking time to read, taking time to do the things that you enjoy, spending time with friends. I mean, self-care can be so many things, taking time to meditate. If those are things that work for you, and if they don't, then don't do them. Creativity. And this year I added a category of, for me, animals, spending time with animals. But are there creative projects that you're doing, if that's something that you enjoy, or spending time with animals, or if you like mechanics or Legos or trains or plants or gardening or sewing or whatever your interest or hobby is? Your home. Is your home the way that you want it? Are there little things that changes that you can make? Even something simple, I've talked about this before, like making my bed, that I used to not be a bed maker and it was important to my husband, so I did it. And I'd say for the most part, I make my bed. I don't always, but I just feel better when things are in order, if there's a place for things when I put them away. It's not a judgment. And if you look at my desk in the dining room, that's the place where things that don't have a home go to live. So I want to be very clear that I do not have this mastered, but I find that if things have a home, it reduces the decision fatigue and I can just put things away, but it's the things that don't have a home that I have a harder time with. And that's not to say that things don't pile up and then I clean things up. But if that helps your nervous system, great. And if that doesn't, and you like things how they are, this is no value judgment. And then the last category that I could think of was maybe travel or doing things that are new and novel. And I know that it depends on what your financial situation is. And if you've got young kids, that makes it a lot harder. But I'm sure there are other categories. But what is it that you're wanting in your life? If you could, somebody gave you 3 wishes, what is it that you would want that might lead you to get clear on what some of your desires are. And I recognize that things right now financially are very hard. What's going on in the world is very hard. People are facing all kinds of hardships right now. And so it's not my intention to be insensitive to that. And so these things may not be feasible. It may be just about survival right now. And I want to be sensitive to that. I think that's all I have. As we start this new year, let's hope it's better and brighter. We could use a little bit of that. I think that's it. Remember, sensitivity is nothing to apologize for. It's how your brain is wired. And you have a right to be regulated, dysregulated, organized, disorganized, content, discontent. You're not for everybody. Everybody's not for you. We've been through a lot. It's been a lot. And if you just need to rest deeply, that's fine. If you need to be on screens, if you need to be busy, if you need to be scrolling, whatever you're doing is okay. You really cannot screw it up too much. I kind of dug myself in a hole with that one. I think that's all I have. I hope you had a happy new year, and I will be talking to you soon. Have a blessed day.